Welcome to the I-80 Club and another I-80 football show. Josh Peterson with you on this Thursday morning. If you're listening when the podcast drops first thing, very much appreciate you taking the time for this one. Very much think that you will dig this week's episode. A conversation with Joel Anderson from The Ringer, hosts the Ringer Tailgate podcast, which goes live on Saturday nights during the season, recapping the day that was in college football. Also hosts one of my favorite podcasts, The Press Box with Brian Curtis. That one goes up at the end of each and every week, and really wanted to have this conversation with Joel, not to just talk about college football and the 2025 season and the state of all of the hirings and firings that we are seeing, but also his career in journalism. Has hosted some of my favorite podcasts over the years, including the Slow Burn Season a few years back on Clarence Thomas. Wanted to talk about how he goes about reporting, what playing in college football did for his career, how that changed or alters his approach, and also what it was like getting into news coverage early on in his journalism career and how that has affected how he covers college football and sports in general. So a really fun conversation, different than some of the other ones that we have had over the course of the season here on the I-80 Football Show, but think that you are very much going to dig it. If you have missed some of our previous episodes, very much recommend you go check them out in the archives. We have had some awesome conversations as of late, and still some really good ones to come now over the last month of the regular season in college football and beyond, ahead of the college football playoffs. So we have some great stuff ahead. Also, a reminder, speaking of great stuff ahead, Big Ten Breakdown available on Friday morning. Ben's going to preview Week 10. Wow, Week 10 of the Big Ten slate, including Nebraska's big matchup at home on Saturday night versus USC. That'll be available Friday morning. Speaking of that game versus USC, we'll have the traditional Saturday morning coffee show on Saturday, getting you ready for the game. Post-game, though, will actually happen on Sunday, so stay tuned for the time on that one. It'll be available Sunday morning, though, as Jack is going to the game on Saturday night, so we will be unable to do a recap pod on Saturday night. We'll have that for you Sunday, and so much more to come. Of course, patreon.com/I80 Club if you would like access to all we have to offer. Bonus episodes, usually record those on Wednesdays. Live availability for Volleyball State, Volleyball Late as well when they do those podcasts, all available at patreon.com/I80 Club. All right, let's get to this week's episode. Joel Anderson of The Ringer, talking college football, journalism, and so much more right now on the I-80 Football Show. So happy to have on the I-80 Football Show this week from the Ringer Tailgate podcast, as well as theringer.com, the press box, which I've been listening to since day one. It is Joel Anderson. Joel, thank you so much for taking the time, man. How are you today?
I'm good, bro. Thanks for having me on. It's I'm a Nebraska fan, you know. So
let's
well,
go.
I mean, I don't want to overstate it. I went to a game there in the fall of 2005.
Okay.
Does the name Chris Van Norman sound familiar to you?
It's vaguely.
He played there, I think, in the 70s or 80s or whatever. And without getting into a very long story, I took a private jet to go to this game. It was my first and only time ever being on a private jet, and it was against Wake Forest. And I just had a great time. Like, I was like, oh man, I get it now. I get the Nebraska thing. This wasn't like a great era of Nebraska football that I was watching.
That's the Bill Callahan era.
Yeah, Bill Callahan era.
I remember that game in 2005.
Yeah, so it wasn't even it wasn't like a great, but the crowd was great. The atmosphere was great. I ended up really liking the way that Lincoln looked. So anyway, yeah, they won me over that day.
Oh, that's awesome. And I know you are an alum of TCU. You played for them in the mid to late 90s. Did you have a chance to come up to the game when TCU was here in 2001, I believe?
No, that would have been my first year of being pro in something other than sports. So I was probably just watching it on TV from home or something like that. Or I used to have to work Saturdays at that time, so I probably was watching it from work on that Saturday. So unfortunately.
Yeah, probably on a smaller TV than what we're watching our football games on these days.
Definitely didn't have HD. Didn't have HD. No.
Absolutely not. We booked this interview. We got it locked down a few weeks back, and I think it was pretty much right around the time of the James Franklin firing. Since then, James Franklin's been fired. Billy Napier's been fired at Florida. And then this past weekend, Brian Kelly is axed at LSU. I wonder, a kind of big picture to start the conversation with today. Is this sustainable, in your opinion, in this era of college football, given all of the conversation that we're having about money and where this, and like, oh, they got to bring in private equity money. Like, I wonder for you if you view this as something that can continue to happen, or if there's going to be a breaking point at some point, and whatever that even looks like.
I don't know what the breaking point would look like, right? Because yeah, I mean, obviously, all but two Big Ten schools saying, well, "Let's get this private equity thing rolling," because we need some more money to cover. Because it's like these schools, they'll spend all the money they have. They're not preparing for the days ahead, right? Like there's no time or bandwidth for putting aside money and like what in case the cap for players goes up, or what if we need some more capital projects going on, or what if we got to pay this huge buyout or whatever. It's like we spend the money as soon as it hits our hands, we got to get it back out of here. So I don't know what a breaking point would look like, but it does seem like this is untenable. And also I don't the from the fans to the coaches, it's exciting as like if you're just a sort of a neutral college football observer. It's like this school's going through misfortune and they're going to hire somebody, and you get to see that whole cycle do itself. But if you're a fan of Florida or LSU, the whole year you spent all summer waiting on the year.
Yep.
and you're not even, what are you excited about in November or December, right? And if you're a coach, it's like they don't even allow you to have a bad year anymore, right? You can have a disappointing year, but you can't have a bad year. And that's totally unlike it used to be. If you go look at Joe Paterno, for instance, and he could throw in a 4-7, and people didn't go into like, it wasn't an existential crisis for the place of Penn State in college football. And so that is what I think is untenable or unsustainable. Like the idea that, well, you know what? This guy had one bad year, and now we got to pay him a $30 million buyout. So either they're going to readjust these contracts or something so that there's not so much on the back end, and maybe the front end, the contracts will be larger or something, or there'll be more guaranteed money up front. But yeah, the way that we're doing it is just a little bit off. Like I just can't imagine that we'll be doing this 10 years from now in the exact same way.
Was that why in the immediate aftermath of the firing of Franklin, you wrote huge mistake, but I guess we'll find out. And like, I guess to take a step back, one of the things, Joel, that I found fascinating about that decision, I didn't really see a whole lot of debate on if it was the right move or not. It was almost this accepted, well, the fans are mad, and I guess you have to move on from James Franklin. So does that opinion that you had a couple of weeks ago, does it go back to that? Like, really, we're just going to allow for a bad season to affect an era and just completely end it, like that seemingly?
Well, the thing is weird because, what people are saying, and, my pod mate, Van Lathan, for instance, like he's very happy. He's an LSU fan. He wanted Brian Kelly gone. Sure. And he's like, well, when the fans are done, the fans are done. And I was like, I don't know if you should allow fans to run your athletic department because they're going to be fickle. They're going to be disappointed. Like, it sucks to lose. And it sucks to, like, be told, oh, we have a chance to play for a national championship game, and then all of a sudden you're losing at home to Northwestern, right? But it happens, right? Good football coaches lose games that you don't expect them to sometimes. That happens from Bill Belichick when he was in the NFL, maybe not North Carolina, because North Carolina is something else. Yeah. To Bill Walsh, to Jerry Glanville, whatever Jack Party, whatever coach you want to go to, it happens. Sometimes they lose a game that they're not supposed to, and it's because they're depending heavily on the judgment and consistency of the least consistent, the people with the least amount of judgment that you want to trust, like 18 to 19 to 20 to 21, 22-year-old guys. Like, stuff is just going to happen, right? And so, yeah, man, I don't think the James Franklin thing made a lot of sense to me because people will say, "Oh, okay, this is far beyond what happened this season, and it wasn't a good fit, and the fans were kind of tired of him or whatever." But that doesn't make any sense to me because if all they do is convert a 2-point conversion against Oregon at home, we're not talking about any of this. So it must be the 3-game stretch. Like, don't try to lie to me. Like, I know that you were very disappointed about what happened and you had to run him up out of here. And then you started talking about all the other stuff. Not a good culture fit. He's disingenuous. We never win any of these big games. But if he had just won that one game, he might still be in that job. If Brian Kelly had lost 49-44 the other night, I don't think he gets fired. And I just don't think it's smart to make a decision based on the fact that your fans are mad and disappointed in one game. Like, you've got to have something stronger. If you believe in these guys, if you believe in the people that you hired, I think it has to be a little bit stronger than like, I don't want the fans to be mad at us.
Yeah, you say something there, and I'm in my late 30s now, and the older I get, and the more I look at like college football, and it's like, wow, like the $1 billion enterprise is pinned on 18 to 22-year-olds. Like, I was a moron at that. I mean, I'm still a moron probably, but it's like, man, like so much for that small sliver of someone's life is going to affect all of these people's moods and opinions and the way that they spend their money. And it's always been that way, and I guess it's always just going to be that way.
Dude, I when I played football at TCU, we had a guy that was a really good player. And he played as a freshman, and I don't even want to say the position because I don't want to give it away. But one week he just disappeared, man, and it was because his high school girlfriend had started dating a friend back home. And he was heartbroken and had to go home, and the coaches had to go get him, and he was thinking about leaving school. And it's just like, people forget that kind of stuff is happening like all the time. Like, Ricky Williams was depressed because Major Applewhite was dating his girlfriend at the University of Texas. Like, for people that don't know that, like, there's stuff going on between these dudes and on campuses because they're still living their lives. Like, as much as they look like grown men, they're still like learning and experiencing things they've never experienced before in their lives. And so, yeah, it's a very tough group of people to have to make your living on. Okay. So sometimes they're not going to show up. Sometimes they're just not going to be able to play like a professional because they're not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So as I mentioned at the start, now 3 massive jobs open, right, in LSU, Florida, and Penn State.
Yeah.
I think you already have a little bit of pause on maybe making a decision, in such short order with like a Luke Fickell, for example, at Wisconsin, because, hey, it's only been 3 years. But I wonder overall, Joel, if like this moment and those schools in particular being open should give pause to like a Wisconsin, Michigan State. There's a lot of concern about Jonathan Smith's future. Auburn and Hugh Freeze, just given like, whoa, those are some pretty big heavy hitters that are available. Are you sure you want to move on from your coach because you're probably not going to be that happy with whoever you get next?
I mean, I guess the thing is what do you have in mind, right? Like, who do you think you can get? And if you think you can, if there's somebody out there that you're like, well, this coach or this candidate is a little undervalued, maybe we can figure something out with him. The head coach at Arizona, I think it's Brenneman or something like that. If you think, oh, that guy's a little undervalued, we could do something with him. Maybe Dan Mullen might be willing to come back. But if we're all going for Lane Kiffin, right? If we're all going to try to throw money at Dan Lanning, who probably is not going to leave Oregon, then it's just like, I don't know if you know what you're doing. Like, maybe this isn't a bad idea, and you should just run it back and see if maybe you have a better year in the portal. Like, maybe you can build out your scouting infrastructure and see if maybe that might help your coach. Like, that might be a way to do it. So yeah, I think that there are going to be some schools that do it. The one thing you mentioned, one of those schools, Wisconsin, is kind of the tough one to me. Okay, because it's just they are getting their ass beat. Like, they've been shut out their last 2 games. That is pretty tough. That's a tough sell, and it's not like Wisconsin, like Luke Fickell has shown anything at Wisconsin that you'd be like, oh, okay, like he's going to put this all together. I don't think Luke Fickell is a bad coach, but I don't think he's a good coach at Wisconsin. So that's a tough sell. But Mike Norvell at Florida State. Let's say that he doesn't beat Alabama, or you know what I mean? Like, let's just say that game doesn't go the way it's supposed to. Then people would look at it and they'll be like, well, 4-4, that's not bad. Like, they were 2-10 last year. So like, that is showing some growth and progress. And maybe, we give him another year and he can build more of a foundation. It's stuff like that. Like, maybe you might want to just stick with the guy that you have and see if you can do some things to make things better. But obviously that's not going to happen. That's not how college football works, man. There's not
Nope.
Like, the sensible thing is not going to happen in a lot of these cases. Because again, they've got a month to go. Their teams are probably going to lose some games that are going to be embarrassing, and people are going to boo them, and then they're going to feel pressed to make a decision.
Yeah, and you could not be more correct on Wisconsin. Like, we've been making jokes about them around here in Nebraska for really a couple seasons now because we keep viewing them as like, oh, they're in their Bill Callahan era right now. Like, I agree with you. I think Fickle's a good coach. I honestly, after Nebraska fired Frost, like, he was near the top of my list. I thought he would have been a great hire. For whatever reason, doesn't seem like a good fit for Wisconsin. And now I just wonder, like, as they go to these depths of hell, right, with all these shutouts and lack of scoring, like, it's just they find themselves in a very precarious spot, and I don't know what the answer is going to be moving forward, just because of where the sport is at right now. I just don't know if there's going to be the fix that they're hoping for.
I just wonder if they had hit on any of the quarterbacks that they've signed, from Tanner Mordecai to Billy Edwards or whatever. If just one of those guys stays healthy or produces, I wonder how different this all looks. Because I mean, obviously, a big part of what made Luke Fickell a viable candidate at Cincinnati and somebody that people looked at was Desmond Ridder. Like, he got a lot out of Desmond Ridder interviewed. People don't remember. I don't even know if Desmond Ridder's in the NFL anymore. Like, he washed out amazingly fast. He was a first round draft pick, man.
Yep.
And he had a first round draft pick, and Cincinnati was able to do a lot with him. So I just wonder if, like, he, of talent, evaluation, scouting, whatever, I don't know what happened there, but they just have not hit on a quarterback yet. And I just wonder if, like, they get a quarterback in, if maybe that changes the way people feel about Wisconsin and the way that Wisconsin would look. But yeah, that's a tough situation. Although the one thing I always say about Luke Fickell, man, the only bad season Ohio State has had in the last generation is the year that he was the head coach there.
That's true.
It's the only time Ohio State looked bad was when he was the head coach. And of course, it was an interim situation or whatever after
a lot of guys suspended that year.
Yeah, a lot of guys were suspended. It was it was right before they brought in Urban Meyer or whatever. So right after Tressel, before Urban. So it was a transition year. But I was like, I always kind of think about that when I think about Luke Fickell. I was like, I don't know. You couldn't even win with Ohio State talent, though.
Yeah, it's so funny you say that, Joel, because for years I always looked at that and said he's actually not that good of a head coach. And then the Cincinnati playoff stuff, and you mentioned he has an NFL quarterback. He had other NFL guys on the roster. That just kind of, I was like, all right, well, I guess I was wrong on him. And now I'm like, oh, I should have stuck to my guns. I could have nailed this thing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And the other thing I'll say, like, Cincinnati, as it turns out, is a good football program. Like, we just kind of have to accept that a lot of people, with the exception of like Tommy Tuberville or whatever, can win there. Can win there and do great and make their fans happy. Like, for whatever reason, it's in a area where they got good recruits and they got resources and their tradition or whatever. So you can win in Cincinnati. It's not Luke Fickell dependent. So maybe that's some of it too.
Yeah, 100%. Not to keep going down, coaches and their time's coming to an end, but I did want to ask you, Joel, about Colorado, because you had a tweet on Monday. There was this video that came out of him after the game in the press conference. Colorado got just bludgeoned by Utah this weekend, and you said time is winding down. Like, I wonder, because first of all, I agree with you. I think that we're nearing the end of the Deion Sanders era in Colorado, and probably his coaching era, right? Just given some of the health concerns that he has right now. How are we going to view Colorado football and the Deion Sanders experience as the years pass? Because to me, it seems like one of those like moments in time where if you weren't watching college football or Colorado, I don't know if people are going to understand how massive they were, especially for that first year in 2023. But even last year, as they had a good year, and then Travis Hunter, of course, wins the Heisman playing both ways. Like, how is this era going to age, I guess, is another way of asking the same question.
Man, I mean, would it be like, is he like this is not a 1-for-1, and I'm going to get it wrong, so just whatever. Is he like the Black Gene Chizik? Where it's like, okay, you won a it's not whatever Colorado's version of a championship.
Sure.
It was just like, wow, they caught lightning in a bottle. He, benefited from having a couple of really good players and stringing things together and winning outside of their expectations for a little bit. And then when everybody moved on, it was like, oh, okay, like this, there's not a counterpunch, right? I mean, we know that Deion doesn't like to recruit. Like, he said that. Like, I don't feel the need to leave. I don't feel the need to leave Boulder and be out on the road and do all that stuff. Well, I was like, oh, okay, well, that's cool. High school recruiting is only the foundation. That's the spine of any program. Like, that is, if you miss in the portal, your hope is that you've got somebody that you've recruited that can step right in, right? Because you're not always going to hit in the portal. And so there's that. I mean, I think, you said Deion is ill. He's had his health issues. That looks really tough. And also, I mean, I don't know Deion, and but obviously, but I have to wonder, man. The reason he really got into coaching was his sons,
Hmm.
and he's been coaching them pretty much on every level, little league, to high school, through college, and it's over now. That's to find your motivation to like. Did I really enjoy coaching kids, or did I enjoy coaching my kids? Um,
Mm.
and it was is like, does it feel the same? It doesn't mean that he doesn't get some sort of benefit or like joy out of coaching, like in general, but it probably doesn't feel the same. And so he's there by himself, without his sons for the first time in a long time. And he's just sitting up there, and it's like, all right, this ain't an easy job, especially if you don't like recruiting. And it ain't like
Hmm.
Colorado is a place where you're just going to have recruits flooding in there. You got to go out and get them. You got to bring them into your state. Um, so yeah, then I mean, what if you're a transfer right now, the top transfer, and you're looking at this, you're like, is that something I want to sign up for? Right? Is that, do I really want, does it look like Deion's going to stick there the long term? Also, those games are not big events anymore, and they're getting
No.
nobody cares in the way that they did a year ago, and they're getting their ass beat. So yeah,
Yeah.
man, that's a tough sell. That's why I just kind of think, I think at the end of the year there may just be sort of a graceful exit for Deion, if assuming that Deion can do grace.
Yeah. I know you're a listener like I am of Split Zone Duo. Alex Kirshner, friend of the pod, he brought up on their recap on Sunday, like, has he ever gotten beat this bad? Like that Utah, I mean, that was 43-0 at the half.
Yeah,
It was just one of those, oh my gosh, and for
yeah.
someone as successful as him, I cannot imagine he was ever on a team in college or the pros. And I guess the Oregon game a couple years ago was pretty rough, but this had to be a special kind of a suck for him to be a part of that I can't imagine he wants to be a part of a whole lot moving forward.
Oh yeah, well then it's one thing to get beat and know, okay, I can make something out of this, right? Or like there's a reason. Like, again, he had Shador and Travis and Jimmy Horn and all those guys last year, the last couple of
Yeah.
years. So it's like you lose, it's like I still got some talent, I know. Right now he doesn't know where to turn. Like I don't think Caden Salter and then we're going to turn this around and make this like a season that he can be excited about, right? And so yeah, I I mean I would bet he probably has lost, but it doesn't happen a lot. And it's something that it probably feels a lot different now as opposed to when you're playing and you can actually have your hands on it, or when you're coaching and your kid is out there and you're like, okay, I can still figure this out. Now it's like I'm losing, and I don't know how to necessarily make this better. There's no guarantee that it's going to get better, and I don't feel good, man. I just don't. So yeah, it just there's a lot working against him. I'm not, I think college football is better if Deion stays around. Like
I do too.
I would like to see Prime stay there at Colorado, but I just the way that it's working out this year, it doesn't seem like he's there for very long.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned a few minutes ago, you played football at TCU. They had that magical run a couple seasons ago to the national championship game. And I know in the moment, Joel, a lot of us were like, okay, is this just like a one-off? Is this just, a specific moment in time, COVID eligibility, et cetera, et cetera? Well, now we're a few years later, the playoffs expanded. And I would say that there seems to be even more parity. And maybe we just use that word because Indiana's number 2 in the country and Vanderbilt's a legit playoff contender. But I do think that the word very much applies. What has this been like for you as a viewer of the sport, as someone who covers the sport, to see it undergo this transformation that I could never have expected 5-10 years ago, heck, 3-4 years ago, and it seems like this is actually what it's going to be now moving forward.
I mean, on the whole, I love it. Like, I think it's great. I think it's amazing. There used to be a time, 3, 4, 5, 7, 12 years ago, that about 90% of the season was over for people. Like they lost a game or two, and it's like, all right, well, they're not gonna. They're playing for to get into the Holiday Bowl or whatever, and it was just a letdown. But now, team like it reflects the reality of the sport, which is that it is very hard to go undefeated,
Yep.
and sometimes going undefeated isn't necessarily a. I mean, it shows a sort of achievement, but it may not speak to the quality of a team. It could just speak to a series of circumstances, some luck, weak schedule, whatever, right? Maybe this team didn't have to play in a conference championship game or whatever. But there's ways that you could kind of like scheme up a undefeated year, and it wouldn't necessarily tell you anything about the quality of the team.
Sure.
Now, if you make it to the playoffs, bro, we know that you're a good team. right? Like, and the way that these schedules are set up, like, we're getting great games every week, man. Like, Texas versus Kentucky or Texas versus Mississippi State is not, like, we know that Kentucky and Mississippi State aren't great games, but those are still big brand programs. And we just get to see that week to week, man. Florida playing against, South Carolina. Like, all these schools have to play each other now. So they don't get to duck each other and play, like three good teams and then fill it out with a weak non-conference schedule. Like, I feel like the schedules are better. I feel like everybody feels like they have a chance. Like, if Vanderbilt and Indiana can play their way into the top 10, it means it should inspire a lot of hope in a lot of fan bases. Like, oh, that could be us someday. Like, we could do that. SMU was in the playoffs last year. I mean, when is SMU in the last 40 years they had something to really be excited about?
I was going to say, you got to go back to the 80s to find the last time they were excited about anything.
You got to go back to the 80s, man. And so it just means that, like, your time could come up anytime. Like, you never know when something's going to come together and your team puts it together and has a great season. And that's what happened to TCU in 2022. That was a season nobody saw coming, right? Nobody predicted that. And so I think that part of it is exciting. Now, do I think, I will also say this because I'm an old man. I really liked when Alabama was a dominant force in the game. Like, I really like to see, I do think that
you like to have the team to chase after?
There is somebody that you want to be chased at. And maybe Ohio State is that team. Like, sure. Like maybe they just haven't had a chance to sort of prove it yet. But they look really good and they look dominant, right? And they're the defending champs. But I like that somebody has somebody to shoot at. And you feel like at the end of the year, like, okay, that is a worthy champion. Like, that is a team that people will sort of remember. Or, you felt like they really seized the season by the scruff of the neck. And so I kind of miss that, but maybe we have that. Like, maybe we'll find out by the end of the year that Ohio State is actually that team. It doesn't feel that way yet, but that's all. But on the whole, man, I think this is great. Ratings are up. Fans fans are engaged. Memphis and South Florida fans still have something to get excited about. Tulane fans. I think that this is where I like. Are you a fan of college football right now?
Oh yeah, I think it's awesome. And, so I've been living in Nebraska essentially my entire life. And, for the really early years that I can barely remember, they were the dominant force. My first year of remembering college football was their last national championship year, which was Tom Osborne's last year. So, my formative years are all like, whoa, Nebraska was the power. They're still really good. And then they slowly fall off. And so now, I think what you just said about Indiana, I think is pretty interesting of they are inspiring. I view them that way. That is something that you should aspire to be, that you should chase after. But because I'm surrounded by, for lack of a better term, blue blood fans, they don't view them that way. They don't like the Indiana story. They don't think it's cute. They don't think it's they just want to be good. They think, they want to chase after Ohio State, not after Indiana. And so I find that it feels like, Joel, if you talk to a college football fan, like a Bama fan, a Florida State fan, like those teams that were good in my years and your formative years, those fans maybe probably don't like the Indianas and the Vanderbilts of the world. But if you're an Indiana or Vanderbilt or a Kansas State, you're like, what the hell? This is the best time of my life. Like, this is what we should try to be.
Absolutely. Indiana and Vanderbilt are two of the worst P4 programs traditionally in the history of the game. And they're both in the top 10. This is an incredible story. And I love that. Like, I want to see those fans have some. I think it's sad. What's happening at Oklahoma State is sad to me. Like, I don't
That's
want
brutal.
Yeah, I don't want that to be happening to people. Like, somebody has to be bad, right? Like, everybody can't be great. But, like, I want to see these schools that are kind of out of the way. I root for as a TCU alum, I root for sort of the underdogs. I want to see them do well. I want to see them compete.
Yeah. So does it bother you then, Joel? I do a radio show 5 days a week, 12 months a year. And so in season, it's the best, right? Because there's games to talk about, there are matchups, all sorts of intriguing things. And then the offseason arrives, and there's always these stories about various frustrations that people have with college football, or the tournament's going to expand in college basketball. And then the usual kind of NIL, players being greedy, et cetera, that I just find so tired of. What does that do for you, as people probably have a lot of questions for you? Hey, do you have an opinion on this? Does it annoy you? Because the game, I think, on the field right now has never been more interesting. But off the field, it seems like so many people are annoyed by it, and yet they keep tuning in every Saturday in the fall.
I just think they got to get over it, man. Like, it doesn't annoy me. I think the thing is eventually they're going to catch up, and we're in the middle of the change right now, right? And so people are having to get used to the idea that, hey, man, I might not need to get attached. Okay. I think of North Texas. They got the quarterback Drew Mestemacher there, and I'm like, don't get attached to that guy. Okay,
He's going to
things are
break
going
your
to.
heart.
He's going to break your heart. It's going to change. But like, if you have a good coach, like Eric Morris appears to be, you'll bring in. He'll figure it out. Like he'll develop somebody else, or he'll identify somebody else, or whatever. And so like, I think that like there's an opportunity for fans to find joy in whatever level of success there is. And I think it'll even, and this is a little bleaker, but in 10 years or whatever, when there's there's a divorce between P4 and group of six or whatever, there's like a reorganization that like once people find their level, they'll be a little bit more at peace. But right now we're in a kind of upheaval. And fans don't like it, and they just are not used to it. And they're not. Yeah, I mean, if you're an LSU fan, it's crazy the idea that not only did Vandy beat you, they beat your ass, right? Like they didn't. They drove
Physically
you.
manhandled you.
They physically manhandled you. That's like they're not okay with that. They're not used to that. But it's just going to take some time. I mean, NFL fans don't sit around getting mad about this stuff. And I think the thing is the game. As the games get tougher, as the paths to the championship get a little bit more difficult, like I think that fans are going to like catch on to the fact that losing a game or two doesn't mean you're a bad coach or a bad program. That's just the way of things now.
Yeah, talking about Indiana and Vanderbilt, I want to use that as an entry point into Clemson because about a month ago you had a riff on Ringer Tailgate about like beating Clemson doesn't mean what it used to, or it doesn't mean anything anymore, which certainly is the case, right? As they've gotten off to a really bad start, like. They were they had always been that program where it's like, well, they should be better. They're surrounded by so much talent. Then they finally make their run right and they win a couple titles. Knowing what you know now, are you more surprised at their ascension to the top of the sport, or are you more surprised by the swiftness in which they have seemingly fallen off the map?
The former. I mean, because actually, I don't think that like Clemson has any birthright to being a dominant program. They're the other school in South Carolina. Right. I mean, I guess they probably have the better, longer history or whatever. But like, there's the University of South Carolina and Clemson, so they're sort of like the Texas A&M of South Carolina or whatever, right? Like they should be like that. And so my thought is that Clemson fans, I hate to break it to you, that is the best it's ever going to get. You're never going to have that run again. That's the last. I mean, like you may win another national championship. Whatever, but like expecting the run that Dabo had in the late teens, that's probably not going to happen again, and that's okay, right? Like people just kind of forget it is really difficult to win a national championship. Penn State hasn't won a national championship since 1986, man, right? The University of Washington, I think they won a good, solid program that has access to kids. They got all the resources. They're a Big Ten school now. The last time they won a share of the national championship was 1991, if I'm not mistaken. Or it was like 19, is it 91? Something like that.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult for programs to win, man. And so people are just going to have to get used to the idea that like it's just not going to happen like that, man. Like, and so Clemson is one of those schools that like they go 8-4, 9-3. That's just, I mean, that's Clemson, bro. You might make the playoffs. And maybe, and I think the thing right now, though, is that, like, Dabo's team is truly bad. And he's also shown, like, a resistance to getting along with the currents of the game. And so I could understand Clemson being like, hey, man, Dabo, are you serious about this? Like, do you really want to do what is necessary to take us into the next generation? Because they're looking at the ACC right now, I'm sure, and they're like, Georgia Tech? Virginia, we're better than y'all, right? There's no way. So I could understand Clemson fans looking at that dynamic and being like, oh, we should be expecting more. But man, bro, like you're not gonna. I'm a TCU fan, friends. Again, I know that we're not like what I've experienced as a fan is far and above with any generation of TCU fan that lived before me. This would have been a miracle. Like they would have been, oh my God, TCU played in a national championship game. They won a Rose Bowl. It would be amazing. So like sometimes fans have to be realistic about it, which is impossible. But just be realistic, bro. Like it's just not going to happen for you again. You're not going to get the Deshaun Watson, Trevor Lawrence thing again. It's probably just not going to happen for you like that.
Do you feel that way? And not to make people around here angry, like, where's Nebraska's place in your opinion and all of that? Because like, I mean, again, I've lived here, so I've lived it And I have always been someone, at least the last 5-10 years, it's like they're not going to win a national championship ever again. Like I feel that way, deep to my core, even as the sport has evolved and the field has gotten bigger. So in theory, the opportunity to get there is easier than certainly easier to make a 12-team field than a 2-team field. But yet I look at their place in the sport right now and I say, I don't see them ever getting back to the heights of the Tom Osborne or Bob Devaney eras. Heck, even the Frank Solich era, perhaps.
That's going to be so tough. Yeah, I mean, I guess the thing is that it's tough to say it won't ever happen again, only because we see Vandy and Indiana haven't done anything yet, right? Like they've got to actually prove that they can do this. But I was going to ask, I think about this with Arkansas because I was growing up a Southwest Conference fan. Like University of Houston was my favorite team growing up. Yeah. And they went to Southwest Conference. And when Arkansas left and went to the SEC, and I was just thinking, at the time, I was like, man, they're really going on and leaving us behind. But if you're an Arkansas fan, what do you hold on to in the last 30, 35 years? Like, is that fun, what you're doing? You're not, what you're going through right now, is that fun? And that's what I kind of wonder about Nebraska. It was cool when you got to play Kansas State, Kansas, Oklahoma State.
Road trips, like actual road trips.
Yeah, road trip schools that were close within your region, Oklahoma, and teams that, just to be frank, that you had outgunned, right? Like schools that you could kind of manage a little bit. And do you enjoy this Big Ten thing? Has this been a lot of fun for you?
No, and you always wonder, right? Is it like chicken or egg? Are people around here not having fun because they are losing a lot, or are they losing a lot because like they joined the Big Ten? And we'll never know, because the end of the Big 12 run, like the program was still solid, but they had definitely fallen off from what they were in the heyday. But no, and along those lines, like I think about the same thing with Oklahoma. I'm like, is Oklahoma are they gonna rue the day? Because they owned the Big 12 at the end, unlike any team has owned any conference in recent years. And now I look at them and I'm just like, I wonder if they're going to feel rudderless, kind of like Nebraska feels rudderless or has felt rudderless over the last decade.
Oh, man, absolutely. I mean, I think so. To put a pin on the Nebraska thing, I think that you guys can be good, but the Tom Osborne thing, like that run is over, man. Like this is not. First of all, it's just difficult to get players in like that, like they used to. I mean, Nebraska had a lot of advantages at a lot of other schools. Oh, yeah. Some schools had not tapped into just lifting weights. You know what I mean? Or you could get Lawrence Phillips into school. You know what I mean? Like them days are kind of a little bit different, right?
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, for Oklahoma, man, it's the exact same thing. I think about it. I'm like, well, you don't have any advantages over these other schools. Like Oklahoma, when it would go out and play, like in the Big 12, it had significant personnel and resource advantages over everybody it played against. Those are gone now. Like that's just not going to happen. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, man. I think people are upset at Brent Venables right now, and maybe that's understandable. Like, maybe they're underperforming. But I'm looking at that program, and I'm like, I kind of feel like you guys, the Gary Gibbs era wasn't so bad, in retrospect, going 9-3, 8-4, maybe being in the playoff conversation. But you're not going to win. I think, Oklahoma won like 14 of the last 20 Big 12 championships, something like that. Like, that's just not going to happen.
Nuts.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
It certainly isn't. I wanted to ask you, Joel, moving away from kind of college football this year, but more about your career. You played, as we talked about a couple times, you played college football. When you got out of school and into the journalism field, because you've covered all sorts of things. You're not just a sports guy. Was that a conscious decision for you, or was that just something that, for lack of a better term, kind of found you?
It's something that found me. I'll never forget. I went to a job interview at the Dallas Morning News. This is my last semester of college. And when the Dallas Morning News, again, it's still a good newspaper, but it's not what it was, 25 years ago. Yeah. And they asked me, they said, so what do you want to do? Do you want to do news or sports? And I was like, what job do you have? You know what I mean? Like, I was like, I just wanted a job. Like, I wanted the security of a job. Mm-hmm. And so when I went to the Associated Press, it was my first job out of school. And it was very competitive to be a sports writer. Like, they have a sports writer. And sometimes in some areas, they may have two sports writers if it's a big area. So like when I worked in Dallas, so the Dallas area had two sports writers. Mm-hmm. But even then, these are very competitive jobs, very hard to get those titles. Everybody wanted them because you got to cover everything. You got to cover the Cowboys, Mavericks, Rangers, the local colleges, the Dallas Stars, all that stuff. These are very competitive, fun jobs that you're going out for. So to do that, you had to do news. Like you had to do news shifts and go cover shootings, city hall meetings, things like that. And so, yeah, that was just kind of part of my training. Like it wasn't necessarily intentional, but that's just kind of the way it started out for me. And it gave me some flexibility to take jobs and consider going places that maybe I wouldn't have wanted, I didn't think I would get a chance to go. I loved college football and I loved covering it, but it never, there was a point in my life where I definitely didn't think I'd be covering it anymore. Where I was like, okay, like that's probably over. I'm going to have to be serious and, cover a governor or something like that, right? Or whatever. Or I'll be a middle, I'll be an editor somewhere or something like that. It never occurred to me that I would still be 47 years old covering college football.
Your colleague, your now new colleague at the Ringer, Zach Lowe, he joined you guys during the NBA playoffs. I believe he was similar in the early part of his career, right, where he was on the police beat. And he's talked about how that helped him learn and apply it to NBA coverage. How did doing that new stuff, how did it or how does it now help you do the sports job, given that those things are so different in terms of scope and in terms of importance? And yet I say that knowing college football does matter to a lot of people, even though it maybe shouldn't matter as much as, the police beat, for example.
No, I mean, I think it just, it takes you through the range of possibilities about how to report a story so, okay, this person doesn't want to talk to me. All right, well, let me go knock on that door. Let me pull this file. Maybe there's another source or something like that. When I was at ESPN, I got in trouble twice. I won't talk about the second time, but I got the Duke basketball SID fired for something. But when I was at UCL, when I was covering, I was doing. You remember Josh Rosen?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. All right. So they assigned me a profile on Josh Rosen, and I go out to LA to do this story, and I called, put him in the call with UCLA. I want to do this, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, well, you just, meet him after practice or whatever. And I'm like, okay, whatever. I looked up his address, his home address, and I drove up to his house in Manhattan Beach. And I knocked on the door, left my card. Nobody answered. And I was like, okay. And I go back to my car. And as I'm starting up my car, Mr. Rosen knocks on my door. And he's like, hey, I've got you said you're not allowed to do that. You can't do that. You come over to our house. And I'm like, oh, I didn't know that was allowed. I did like sports does it totally different. In news, like I would go to your door or whatever, right? So anyway, like I think that like what has helped me is just like the idea that like there's also I don't have to go through the SID, I don't have to go through the PR person. There's another way of getting this story. If you're not going to help me, that's fine. I'll get it another way. And so I think that kind of stuff, and then it just kind of broadens your view of the world and like what is a real news story. Like I was a jock like coming up, right? I didn't spend a lot of time thinking about the world in a lot of different ways, but just the exposure to covering other stuff, like covering a mayor's election in Shreveport, a execution in Texas, a police shooting somewhere else. Like that stuff just gives you a lot of more fodder and just a broader sense of the world. And I think it helps me when I come to college sports because I can it helps me a little bit to put it in perspective, but also like think about other ways to come at stories that maybe I wouldn't have had if I'd just only done college football.
Yeah, so along those lines, I'm going to use the word culminating, but I don't want that to seem like there's an end point to your career, right? You have many more years to go.
I'm not going to be able to retire, unfortunately.
I wonder if all of that you did, like you mentioning knocking on the Rosen door, reminded me of Slow Burn. And so you did 3 seasons of Slow Burn, 3, 6, and 8. You covered Biggie and Tupac, the LA riots, and Clarence Thomas. The Clarence Thomas season, for the record, my favorite of all of the Slow Burn seasons. And pretty early in it, right? You're knocking on a door. You're having conversations with people in his life. And so I wonder, again, to go back to that culminating word, if all of that part of your career was able to lead to those seasons and doing what you have to do, and that's knock on doors and have really tough conversations that people don't always want to have.
Yeah, no, man. It certainly helped. Like I think that every part of my career has helped the part that comes after it, right? Like, I mean, I think that's like, if I was whenever I go talk to college students or college classes, like I was like, you just never know what part of your career is going to help you later. Like what that experience is going to mean for you later. And so, yeah, I just kind of went into I mean, I can't. We both came up in a different time in media, right? Like it's
Oh yeah.
like it's. I don't even. I feel bad for kids today because I don't know that the jobs are not available like they were. You could just when I was in college, I could go to the Fort Worth Star Telegram and they would pay me $40 to cover a high school football game, right? I don't know if that's the kind of thing that's still going on anymore at these local newspapers or whatever, but without dwelling too much on the specifics, like I think the thing that is important is like there's no assignment that's beneath you. Like
Mm.
everything can be interesting. Any like you can send me. Sometimes they would send me out, and I'm like, I don't want to cover this high school golf tournament. This sucks. And then I get there and I talk to the kid and his parents, and they'd have an interesting story or whatever, and then you'd be like, oh, okay, that wasn't that bad after all. So yeah, for me, it's just the opportunity to learn more about the people and the places and how they end up where they are. Like all of it can help feed you in the stuff you do later in your career. I just think like a limitless capacity for curiosity, I think, is just
Mm.
like essential for this stuff. And like so that's me. Like I'm just curious about the world and how things come together, and so that I think that has helped me. But yeah, that's so that is what will lead me to show up at Clarence Thomas's mama's door because I'm just like I want to see what this house looks like. Oh, okay, well maybe I should knock on the door and see if she's in there. You know.
Yeah. Is that something that you hope to do again in your career, or like now that the further you get away from it, the more you're like, man, that is like it's a lot of work. It's a labor of love, I have to imagine, but it's a lot of work that goes into it. Or do you hope to do it again?
I hope to do it again when my kids are older.
There
Uh,
you go.
I have a 3-year-old and a 1-year old. I don't think I could. I wouldn't have that kind of time or even bandwidth. But yeah, I mean, you know, I have an idea in mind that someday I probably. I don't want to do my therapy here, but like I feel like I should do a book someday. Like I feel like people take you seriously if you do a book, and everybody's like, "Oh, you need to do a book," and so I want to do a. In doing Slow Burn, my understanding is that that's basically doing a book, right? Like if you do a narrative podcast and you do it for long enough, like in terms of the words and the research and reporting or whatever, that is basically the work it takes to do a book. So something along those lines, a challenging topic, something that would interest me, that could hold my interest for a whole year or two. Oh yeah, like I want to, and I've got some ideas, but
Hmm.
I don't know what it'll be. I don't know when it'll happen. Maybe it won't, but I've got it. I've got my to do list, and I've got some things on there that I would like to get to someday for sure.
Very cool. Last one for me, Joel, and this goes back to college football now. Playing when you did at that moment in time, how does that shape your view? How has it shaped your view, and now how you cover it as the sport continues to evolve?
Yeah, well, I mean, it helps to remind me that these are still young men. I was a young man when I played. I did not have it together. I made a lot of bad decisions. Not like, you know, life destroying ones or whatever, but like my judgment wasn't the best, right? Um and uh yeah, you know, the other thing about it too is that you learn that you're not the star of the show, right? That like you know you need to work as a part of a team, right?
Mm,
But I mean, I did college didn't just help me with that. High school, little league taught me that. But
sure.
like learning how to like be a part of a team and being accountable to people, and then I mean the other part is that man, you can work. I mean, you can work so much harder than you think you are, right? Like it is just you know college football will push you to your limits, man. Like physically. Like I can remember we used to have these workouts called the Rickle. Then you get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and they had trash buckets around the edge of the gym, and with the expectation being that they're gonna run you so hard you're gonna throw up, you
Uh-huh.
know. And yeah, man. And you'd be like, oh god, I have no idea how I'm gonna get through this, and then you would get through it, and you'd be to the next. You know, you get on to the next day.
Hmm.
So all that stuff has stayed with me and I think helped me as I've gotten older as a reporter or whatever. Because I'm just like, oh yeah, like what's bad right now is not going to be bad forever. Uh, I want to help my editors. I don't want to blow deadlines all the time. I want to help my colleagues, and so like yeah, there's so much that I took from football that still applies to me. I think it's a great sport. I don't know if I want my son to play it. I think you could probably get those lessons in other sports, but no, man, I think that like yeah, all the stuff that I went through on the football field has stayed with me even today and is still like valuable. It still guides me on a day to day basis.
That's awesome. Joel Anderson, he is from The Ringer. He hosts a couple of podcasts there, including Ringer Tailgate, which goes live on Saturday nights on YouTube. Also, The Press Box with Brian Curtis. You guys usually record those, Thursdays, Fridays, sometimes,
that's right.
usually
Thursday.
end of the week, and you can read his stuff at theringer.com. He wrote a really good story about Arch Manning a couple of weeks back as well. Joel, man, this was awesome. Good luck to you moving forward. Good luck on the book. I hope to read one of those from you someday, and thanks for joining the I-80 Football Show.
Oh, my pleasure, man. Anytime. I'll come back anytime, man.
What a fun one that was with Joel Anderson. Appreciate him taking the time to chat for close to 50 minutes for this week's episode. Really do appreciate that from him. Again, mention it in the open, but all sorts of great stuff that we have coming up in the I-80 Club over the next couple of days. Don't miss a single second. Get access to it all by becoming a patron today for as low as $5 a month. Patreon.com/I80. All right, for Joel, I'm Josh. Thanks again for joining me today for this week's I-80 Football Show. We'll have a new one coming your way next week on Thursday. Enjoy the weekend.